Spite, get in here.
Ah, what's up?
Corporate needs you to identify the differences between these two motorcycles.
They're the same thing.
You're fired.
Dude, they're the same. Just look at them.
Get your meme folders, get all your stuff, bring it to me. You're done. This is your last day.
All right. I wonder if Fortnite's hiring.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are endeavoring to find out what is the difference between the Yamaha R7 and the MT-07. We get this a lot when we show this bike off on the channel. People say, well, why shouldn't I just buy an MT-07? It's cheaper and it's basically the same thing, right? I think you're kind of in that camp.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't see enough difference here, at least standing in the shop, to justify grabbing this thing over this thing. I mean, this is the gold standard naked bike for a reason, right?
Well, the 200 is the gold standard naked bike.
Yeah, but not everybody can afford a 200. Anybody can go get this with the money between their couch cushions.
I suppose that's true. So, there's actually a lot of differences between these two motorcycles. Some of them granular, some of them big, and today we are going to talk about them. But actually, where did we get that bike?
A deeply concerned citizen out there has supplied this motorcycle to us for the day, just for the purpose of making this comparison. He called me up and he was like, "You have to make it. Use my motorcycle, I beg you."
Yeah, kind of make an inappropriate joke there, but I'm not going to about someone using someone else's wife. But anyways, we also have this motorcycle here. It's our beginner bike giveaway motorcycle. Hit the links down below to yamanube.co. Become a member, join up on our Discord server, and get your entries to win this fantastic motorcycle. Now let's start off with the basics here, folks. Anyone with eyeballs can see that these two motorcycles look very different, right? One has handlebars, a bit of a different gas tank shape. This one has fairings. So the first thing between the R7 and the MT-07 is that it's a super sport styled motorcycle. That means clip-ons. Yeah, it's not an R6, all right, it's super styled, right? So it's got low clip-ons, the geometry's been adjusted a little bit. This motorcycle over here actually has a more naked bike style, tall handlebars, a wide gas tank, more comfortable, the ergonomics a little bit more comfortable. We're actually gonna sit on these bikes back to back later in the video too and show you guys some of that. The other big difference, as we were saying, is the geometry on these two motorcycles, right? Yamaha actually did a great thing and shortened the wheelbase here, steepened the rake so that this motorcycle tips in faster than the MT-07 over there. Because the MT-07, as we all know, is not the greatest handling motorcycle. It's an exciting motorcycle to ride, does wheelies really easily, but on the side of the tire, it does this. You know, it's
exciting.
It's very exciting. So right side up forks over there, as you can tell, definitely not as nice as these fully adjustable KYB forks you're gonna see here on the R7, and a fully adjustable shock as well. Way more ready for the track. Another big difference from the factory you're gonna notice between these two bikes are the tires. This bike over here comes equipped with S22s, which is an awesome sport rubber, while the MT-07 over here actually comes with Pilot Road 5s, which is a way more appropriate sport touring, long distance type of tire. If you were riding today, which one would you pick between these two tires? Did you do a Pilot or did you do an S22?
Considering that it's like 40 degrees outside, I'd probably take the Pilot. But if it was a nicer day, the S22 is a great tire. It's my personal choice too. It's what I run on my Supermoto, so yeah. I really like the way this tire handles. And on the side, it's super buttery smooth.
Yeah.
These can get a little vague from time to time.
Although these will last you probably 2 or 3 times as long as these over here. So if you're a squid on a budget, get these. They'll be better for you. The other big difference you're gonna note on this motorcycle over here is the braking setup. The MT-07 comes with a very standard axially mounted caliper, a very traditional master cylinder, literally nothing to write home about. They've made it better in the past few years, but it's actually still not that amazing. Whereas on the R7, they gave you some proper equipment here. So you have radial mounted calipers and a radial mounted master cylinder here, pushing a really nice amount of fluid through those hoses down to the calipers, pinching those rotors, doing a really good job. We're really impressed with the braking feel on this motorcycle. Beyond that, you start getting into some really granular territory. Those are kind of the big differences over here. So you have stuff like the R7 is a little bit heavier than the MT-07 because all the plastics and everything else. You've got stuff like the slip assist clutch on the R7, which is a pretty nice feature as well. You have gas tank shapes, you know, this is obviously super narrow for the track and you can get in the pocket and have some fun with it. That's more of a traditional sport bike. But I think, you know, beyond that, you start getting really, like the aluminum brackets on the swing arm pivot, like, yeah, they help, but it starts getting really narrow.
like, I'm gonna do you guys one little favor here. I'm gonna take the fairing off of that. We're actually gonna take a look and see how different they really are, because I don't think they make that much of a difference, honestly.
All right, folks, we have removed the fairings from the R7, and we're now comparing them directly to the MT-07 to see if we can spot and clock any differences. There's some fun little differences, aren't there?
Some very minute differences. The main thing that struck me as soon as I pulled the fairings off, I was like, oh, I'm just looking at an MT-07 here.
It even says CP2 underneath there.
Yeah, you don't see it because of the GB Racing cover, but the cases are exactly the same. Everything from like here down, it's super duper similar, to the point where we have an MT-07 pipe on there that's meant for this bike, but it just mounted right up.
Yeah,
so
just fits easy peasy. One thing I'm noticing is rear passenger peg mounted up a little differently. That one's right on the arm of the frame there. This one looks to be further up here, maybe mounted to a plastic part up here, I'm not sure. This side cover's a little bit different than that one. Kind of aesthetically makes it look a little cleaner. That one's got some cuts and rivets in it, look more naked and aggressive. But yeah, otherwise, like, man, they're basically the same.
You really have to look for the differences, because if you look here, this is a just super subtle frame mount situation here. But on the other side, what you have is you have the same frame mount, but they have a fairing mount on top of it and slightly longer bolts.
Yeah.
So they literally, the differences structurally between these motorcycles are so minute once you get beyond that front suspension and the rake angle. I mean, the ABS module's in the same place. They still have the same hangers in the frame for the clutch cable. It's really comical, actually, how similar these are.
Yeah. Now, let's check out the ergonomics of both of these motorcycles, because that's going to be a big difference. At about 5'11" and 160 pounds, the MT-07 fits me just right. It's a very neutral seating position on this motorcycle. The seat height is very approachable, the foot pegs are in a great spot, and the reach to the handlebars is really, really amenable as well. You don't have much of a bend in your back, and it's a motorcycle you can ride all day long. Whereas the R7 is much closer to a proper super sport. It's not exactly like something like an R6, it's still a little bit more comfortable, but the reach to the bars is way more aggressive because of those clip-ons, the seat height is a little bit taller, and the foot pegs are taller as well.
So at 6'4" in my boots with a 32-inch inseam and 240 pounds, the MT-07 is for sure the more comfortable bike between the two. The R7 feels a little bit small at my size. It's more cramped, it's tighter, the super sport ergos, even though they're not nailed 100%, they just don't feel quite right for me. The MT-07, by comparison, is super roomy, super comfortable, a lot of space to move around, and it's just a super basic, neutral place to sit on a motorcycle that I could spend all day on. If we come out on location, we come out, and Yam's nowhere to be seen. I gotta film this freaking vlog. Where is this guy? Oh, man. Oh, wait, there he is. Hey, Yam, what you doing behind that bush, buddy?
Guys, one of the first things I do when I get out here on location is make sure that my bush is nice and trimmed, and I do that with the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. They've got the perfect package ready for you down there in the link in the description. You might think the MT-07's a perfect package, but really, it's the Lawnmower 4.0 and the Weed Whacker, the shears, ball toner, ball conditioner. If you've got a gooch juice problem, Manscaped's got you covered. Click the link down below, get yourself 20% off automatically added. Now let's get back to the video. Now enough about the ergos. I think the folks at home want to know how these two ride, how it all comes together. Is the R7 just an MT-07 with clip-ons? And I gotta say, for the TLDR, I really don't think it is. What do you think, Spite?
No, we've done a little bit of back and forth already on these motorcycles, and I can really feel the difference between these two bikes, especially out here on these nice tight twisties. Between the brakes and the suspension, holy cow, is the R7 a much more desirable package in my opinion.
Yeah, it just all comes together a little bit better. You can certainly feel that the DNA is the same. It's obviously got the same engine and frame and swing arm and all that stuff, but the way the ergonomics are packaged and the shape of the gas tank and the way this bike, this R7, is when you get it on the side of the tire, it settles just like an R6. It literally settles into a corner, picks a line, sits there perfectly. Whereas the MT-07 is a little wandery, isn't it?
I mean, we were saying this on camera or off camera just a second ago. I'm not the kind of guy who really cares about the suspension normally. I'm like, yeah, okay, it works, it's good. But I'm sitting here on this MT-07 and I'm like, man, it's vague. And why is the front end wobbling all so much?
Yeah, it's that old MT-07 feel, you know?
Yeah, it's it's unique, that's for sure. It's going over some of these light bumps. I can feel the whole suspension setup compressing, front and rear. It's not a great feeling. Yeah. But I will say the ergonomics on this are so neutral. Yeah. Like I literally feel like I'm sitting in a chair. It's super comfortable.
Yeah, I think for the average street rider, the R7, it's weird to say it, but it might be kind of overkill because it is pretty track oriented, but you know, the MT-07 just works so well as a street bike because it's so upright, it's wheelie happy, it's got tons of torque down low, you know, that CP2 is no slouch. I feel like when you're, you know, on that sort of machine, it's just really nice to get along with on the day-to-day, whereas this, you gotta want to ride it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, as a package, you really need to co-sign on sport bike life. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, we've seen some wild and crazy MT-07s out there. You've seen the Twins Cup ones. You've seen Jake the Garden Snake's ADV MT-07. I mean, these things can be whatever you want them to be. The R7 is literally just sport bike.
It's sport bike for sure. The MT-07 has a really fun party trick, I think, where it's like sometimes when I ride the MT-07, I kind of feel like, I'm like, yeah, why can't I go scrambling with this thing, you know? Come on, give me a little fire road or something. It's a really flexible and fun motorcycle. It's really sweet.
And, you know, there are some downsides to this motorcycle over the R7, but there are some upsides. I'm looking down at the dash. It's super easy to read. It feels more premium, even though I know they're both just, you know, two-color LCD displays.
Yeah, I will say the R7's dash is a little tougher to read, especially under this windshield, and it's kind of smaller. The MT-07's dash is so clear and easy to read. But one thing I definitely wish the MT-07 had is this bike's braking setup. This master cylinder and this radial mounted caliper feel on this bike is miles better than the MT-07. It's a proper sport bike brake. It feels great.
Yeah, I mean, the lever feel is not horrific on this motorcycle like it used to be. It used to be super wooden, and you really couldn't tell what was going on through the lever.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's better, but I still think it's a bit numb.
One prerequisite for either one you go with, if you're cross shopping R7 or MT-07, is you have to put a pipe on whatever bike you buy. You can't leave an MT-07 or an R7 stock on the exhaust side of things, because that MT-07, I literally can't hear it when I'm on it.
No, I'm sitting here behind that straight piped R7, and I can't. The only reason I know it's on is because I can feel some vibration through the handlebars.
And you're moving through time and space.
Yeah, I mean, I could just be being yanked along by whatever horrific noises are coming out of that motorcycle, though.
Yeah, I think like you were saying earlier, you really have to co-sign on the sport bike life with the R7. This isn't as committed as an R6. I've seen a lot of people online saying that the R7's really uncomfortable. And then I'm just like, when's the last time you rode a real 600? Because those are really uncomfortable. Like, this bike is not that bad to me. But I think it's time for us to switch, and then you let me know if it's doable for you. Go ahead and do swapsies.
Man, the change in the ergonomics is obvious and apparent, but I do think the seat is nicer on this, to be honest.
I'd say so, yeah. I think the gas tank shape on this bike is so different from the R7, it's ridiculous.
I will say, though, the R7 feels a little bit tight if I ride it the way that I would normally ride a street bike, which is kind of upright, like this. You really got to get your toes on the pegs to feel fit on this motorcycle.
Yeah, it's definitely a toes on pegs kind of bike. It's like, you better ride it proper, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, going back and forth between these motorcycles, I can already feel how much more direct and how much more scalpel-like the front end is on this. I mean, is it the greatest front end in the world? No, but it is light years ahead of that suspension over there. I mean, it's so good on here.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, it's such small changes, you know? It's like that bike still has a steel trellis frame, but all they did was shorten the wheelbase, steepen the rake, and give you clip-ons and fully adjustable suspension. And it's like, oh, there you go. That's a proper sport bike. It's like, it's crazy, you know?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder why they still, to this day, have not given the MT-07 the SP treatment that, you know, they really could make an amazing motorcycle if they smashed these two together.
Oh, I love popping wheelies on this thing, though. That was freaking awesome.
I mean, it is the prototypical street hooligan motorcycle, as long as you don't consider, you know, the MT-09.
Yeah. Well, it's like the MT-07 is like, you know, off your favorite twisty road, if you're in second gear, pick it up off the corner, flick the clutch in, you'll pop a wheelie. On the MT-09, it's like, well, third, fourth, fifth gear, just flick the clutch, you'll pop a wheelie probably, don't worry about it. It kind of goes back to what we said, that we kind of wish there was an MT-07 SP, you know? We kind of wish that there was an MT-07 that had that revised front end, that suspension, that master cylinder, but with the handlebar. I think that would be a pretty good motorcycle.
Yeah, and if they could keep it, you know, somewhere, yeah, if they could keep it around this price point, the $9,000 price point.
Oh, man.
That would be solid. Yeah, you can really have some fun with the R7, but I don't know. I sit on it and I'm like, I just wish I was a little more upright, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a track learning kind of trainer tool sort of bike, you know? That's what I kind of think of it as, and it's so good at that, man. Like, if you want to get started with track days, want to have some fun, damn, the R7's a great platform for it. I do love as you enter those corners, you grab a fistful of gas and grab a downshift. It sounds so awesome. It barks, you know.
So fun matching revs on this bike.
Well, I guess I got to go down to second gear again to get another wheelie. Well, now let me think, Spite. Let me ponder something here. So we bought an MT-07 with a good front end feel, a better master cylinder, maybe a little more power too. Aw, beans. Is the answer for R7 versus MT-07 Tuono 660?
The 660 crops its ugly head once again.
Aw, jeepers.
You just can't escape how Aprilia has basically made the motorcycle of our dreams.
Yeah. 100-ish horsepower, lightweight, everything works, just enough technology to have fun. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, and it's 10.5. That's approachable for both of these motorcycles right here.
It's pretty much good, yeah. All right, Spite, we flicked them to the twisties. Now how about we get these two bikes and come up to our final concluding thoughts?
Sounds good to me.
All right, folks, wrapping the day up here, MT-07 versus R7, and it's pretty complicated, I'll say. This is definitely not just an MT-07 with clip-ons. This is a way more sophisticated, way more well thought out motorcycle than this one over here, where they were just like, put a good engine in a frame and give it wheels. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you could really tell that that was sort of the Friday build quality. They made the MT-09 and they were like, that's not something we can sell to everybody. Let's make it a little smaller. This one is like, they made a good motorcycle. Just through and through, it's a good motorcycle. Yeah, it has flaws, but it is leagues above what that is.
Yes, I think if you're looking for a bike you're going to spend a lot of time on the weekends with, on twisties with, a lot of sport riding, you want to do some track days, you got to go R7. I don't think you should even really look at the MT-07. If, however, you are not so inclined for the fast boy life, you want something to dick around with all day long, pop wheelies with, maybe even turn into a stunt bike or a scrambler or whatever, we think the MT-07 might be the best choice here. So again, it comes down to the type of rider that you are, but if it were your money, which one would you buy?
Man, it's tough because I really do appreciate the ergonomics there, but the improved suspension and braking really matter on this motorcycle. They make a huge difference, which is why we keep coming back to the Tuono 660 and the RS 660 whenever these bikes come up. because the
They
Tuono's
solve all the problems.
The Tuono's 10.5. It's both of these smashed together. That's where I'd put my money.
Yeah, so if we were looking between an MT-07 and an R7, we would probably skedaddle over to the Aprilia dealership and check out the Tuono 660. And a lot of you might say, well, Yam, you know, the Tuono 660 is like $3 grand more than the MT-07. You can't compare them, blah, blah, blah. What's $3 grand really? You know, like, come on, life's short. If you're gonna blow money on a motorcycle, blow it on a good one.
Just sell a kidney.
Sell a kidney, do whatever you need to do. How much? You could probably get a lot of bike for a kidney. Kidneys go for hundreds of thousands, right?
I'm not sure if it's hundreds of thousands.
50?
You can at least get a Ducati.
You could at least get a Ducati if you sold a kidney. So if that's your thing, if you want to sell organs for motorcycles, you can certainly do that if you'd like. But getting back on track here, both of these bikes are really fun. They're just fun in different ways. And honestly, if you ride them back to back, you really wouldn't even think that they're based on the same bike. They're that different. The only way I knew that they were similar, especially today since that one had a crazy exhaust setup, is the connection between throttle and engine and frame. That it all feels exactly the same. But yeah, man, once you just do this even a little bit, you're like, whoa, totally different.
The MT-07 is begging for an SP update. It is begging for it. Put it on this frame with just a nice new handlebar setup on here. You can keep the crazy dark side of Japan look because we know they love that, but you don't need the Olins, you don't need the tech that's on the MT-09 SP. Just put handlebars on this. Job done.
And price it less than the Tuono 660, and then maybe we'd stop recommending that bike so damn much. But that's going to wrap up today's video. We hope you enjoyed this look between the MT-07 and the R7. Remember, this R7 is one of our giveaway motorcycles. Click the link below to yamanube.co. Get yourself entered. Join our amazing Discord server. Get all your entries to win this motorcycle. Time is running out. We're going to be giving away this thing in January, I believe, so you don't have much time left to get entered to win it. And thanks again to the guy who let us borrow this MT-07 for the day. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.